Hey there. You may have noticed that over the past week, the coverage of Donald Trump has changed dramatically. A week or so back, and the weeks before that, it was all Russia, all the time. Now there's been a shift. First off, he bombed something, and that'll always get the media going. They love that kind of thing. But he's also completely switched his position on a number of issues. On Wednesday alone, he changed on 5 or 6 things that were seen as kind of rock-solid commitments during his campaign. I'm Rob Morris, and this is my roommate Ray, and we're going to discuss this a bit.
So 5 positions in 24 hours.
It's impressive.
Yeah, that's what I just did, a quick little research, and it's not just that he's flip-flopping. Mm-hmm. I think that's really kind of disturbing is how much he lies as well. Just purely abject lies.
Well, I don't think very many people thought that honesty was something that was part of his character. But it is staggering. It is staggering just
absolutely unbelievable.
How much has been reversed.
Habitual liar. It's safe to say he's an habitual liar. The thing that really is kind of interesting to me is not only does he flip-flop on the issues, but then he lies about why he flip-flopped. He actually lies about the reasons why he took the position in the first place. He'll even lie about what someone said under oath.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is something we knew, Ray.
What followed from here was a solid 6 to 8 minutes of what Ray really thinks about Donald Trump. While it was insightful, and I agree with about 90% of what he said, I didn't really feel that it added anything new to the conversation, and that's what we strive to do here at the More Freedom Foundation. If enough of you ask for it in the comments, I'd be happy to upload it as a separate video, but for now, I think it's probably best to move on.
That's true. Yeah. But as I was saying, the thing about the switch this week that I find actually, in a small way, kind of satisfying is that all of the things, that 10% that he said about foreign policy, that he kind of agreed with me on, it's gone.
So you're happy about that?
I'm fucking psyced.
Oh, so now you can just 100%.
Exactly. I can just rip into this guy. Yeah, no, because
some semblance, some shred of credibility is now gone.
Acknowledging that NATO is the reason we have problems in Ukraine, trying to keep from getting into Syria, trying to think a little more seriously about our involvement in the Middle East. These were things that he said during his, not the specific NATO Crimea thing, but that's something I think
Syria is a great example.
So these are things that he said on the campaign trail that I agreed with and thought that he was just the wrong messenger to take forward. He's thrown all of those out the window. He's basically in foreign policy terms, in domestic policy is something different, but in foreign policy terms, he's basically Hillary Clinton, but Hillary Clinton, but dumber. And less subtly corrupt. And less subtly corrupt.
I am so sorry. Listen, I will not do my girl Hillary like that. In no way, shape, or form is Donald Trump even remotely on her level on any area of expertise when it comes to the ability to be a quality representative of the people.
Well, he managed to get elected president, which is more than.
If you want to have a sit down conversation about why he was elected president, we can do that. But this is definitely not the forum for that.
Yeah, we probably don't want to get.
He lied his way to being president.
Of course, he lied
his way to being president.
Of course, he flip-flopped his way.
He fucking wrangled. He offended.
Yeah.
He was a xenophobe, a racist. Yeah. He played to every fear and every single. Yeah. He is literally a small brain that is threatened by great ideas.
Ray, I think you said something about Trump in our last conversation that I think actually makes a lot of sense. Is that the American people get what they deserve.
Well, that's the common phrase is that the elected officials are a representation of our society in this current state. Now, what we need to do is evolve. We have to move past this petty label. We're driven by labeling everything and everyone. Someone I read in a comment labeled us as liberal morons.
Which I took very personally, I'd like to say.
Rob is definitely not liberal. And I hate being liberal.
I'm a classical.
Because I consider myself a fact-based, progressive person, someone who believes in progress, some measure of progress, collecting all the basic information and trying to solve problems for the betterment of the majority of people in this world. That's where I come from. But you can't label me. You can't label Rob. At the end of the day, we need to move past that. We need to move past the worshiping celebrities and the Kardashians, the Real Housewives. No offense to any of those people who go out there getting their money, but at the end of the day, they're not to be emulated. These are not people that you want to try to be like. Fractions of individuals make it to professional sports. You shouldn't be all be out here trying to be LeBron. We all can't be Bron. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we have to start reinvesting in education. We have to start reinvesting in the healthcare of our people. We need to start doing what is good for the majority of Americans. And the only way you're going to get any of this is to start voting for people who give a fuck about your everyday life and your struggles and problems. How can Donald Trump, an entitled, wealthy individual who's skirted his way out of any piece of trouble and all the 3,500 lawsuits filed against him without any major damage other than the bankruptcies, how is it he represents you? How can he represent you? How can you guys know? How does his life and your life, how can he understand your plight? I'm sorry, I got to get off my soapbox. I apologize for taking over your video.
There was a little bit of that going on. You know, you should run for office, right? You know.
Well, as soon as I get my shit together, I will, because the people deserve better than the current state in which I exist. I need to evolve to represent the people. I am even willing to say that right now. That's all right. Well, we'll move on to the flip-flopper and fibber-in-chief, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. I've lost track. Mostly, I wanted to point out that it can be seen as a positive thing that he's getting on board with the establishment in certain ways. It's certainly a positive thing from my perspective in that I now can without reservation go after this guy, because it's just in a continuum from Bush to Obama to Trump in terms of foreign policy. But I don't think we can rely on that. I think that the alt-right has now learned what they can rely on Donald Trump for. There was a hilarious video, I think I showed it to you, which is sort of just descriptions of the horrified tweets coming from all the alt-right people after he bombed Syria. You know?
The ones he promised that he wasn't going to go into war. The ones he said that Hillary was the warmonger and going to do it. Instead, he did.
Exactly. I mean, they've been betrayed. I mean, we've seen how the conservative Republicans have been betrayed. I mean, he couldn't put in an ounce of effort to repeal Obamacare. I mean, I go back and forth on whether or not I definitely want Obamacare to be improved, but the fact that a Republican president and two Republican houses of Congress couldn't get it together to repeal Obamacare after talking about it for 8 years.
Well, this is the thing.
The point I'm making is that Trump has also managed to betray the sort of conservative Republicans that were so excited about his election. He's going to betray the establishment types too. That's what this guy does. He lies, he betrays, and he is a force. Such a force for instability. I
agree. But one thing that we're missing right now is critical to everything you just said is not only is he a force for instability, but the Republican Party is actually in the midst of a civil war that could fucking rival Syria right now, bro. They hate each other. These people are literally breaking and fracturing from the middle, and we somehow elected them to run our government. This is ridiculous. These people cannot even sit down at the table and agree on something within their own party. We now are being held hostage by the minority. And that's what Donald Trump represents. Believe it or not, he represents the minority people. Check the votes.
I think I'm just going to entitle this video "Ray versus the Republican Party."
That's fine. Yeah. We can go to war. Yeah, I'm ready. I fight with my words.
Yes, that's important.
Just so we know.
That's important. And also comparing I agree. The Republican Party is a mess.
So how are they going to lead? How are they going to lead if they can't govern themselves? How are they going to govern the United States of America and the world for that matter?
Well, I'd imagine you're happier that they're not
No, I'm not. That's the misconception I think everyone has on that they throw at the left and at progressives or people who don't agree with Donald Trump is that I do not want to see the America fail. I would love to be proven wrong.
But if the Republican Party had its shit together, then 24 million less people would be insured.
Agreed. No, there's no question that if there's shit together, that there would be much more damage already to date than there always been done, which is kind of scary if you think about it. But no, yeah, you're right. That is one benefit of them having their civil war, having the Freedom Caucus not be able to be controlled, and then having the Rand Pauls and all these other individuals that they're not traditional conservatives, not the kind that I grew up understanding, and so they're not his daddy's conservatives. You see it? They're not Bush Senior's conservatives. They're not even Bush W. I mean, they're not even Dub's conservatives. So, I think, Rob, at the end of the day, we got on here to talk about Trump and his inability to tell the truth, and also his inability to not really flip on anything. I mean, there's nothing he won't flip on. So, the commander, flip-flopper, and fibber-in-chief. That's my new nickname for O'Don.
I mean, there's nothing there I can really dispute. There is one thing that I do think is a good thing, and that's that he does seem to some degree to have backed off of China. This is a guy who in every campaign stop talked about China. There's some great clips of how he says China. It's different every time, but I can't remember if it was the first or second debate with Hillary. But Hillary asks him a question. It was a pointed question of some sort. It was something completely different. It might have been Hillary. It might have been the moderator, and just out of nowhere, he starts complaining about China. I mean, this has been Donald Trump's central issue. He's going to go after China. He's going to label them a currency manipulator. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. He's going to stick it to China. And he's completely backed off. He said that he will not label China a currency manipulator.
It's interesting,
fantastic. Right? And I think that's that. I just want to say, that is fantastic. Because that was one of my main concerns about Trump.
This is it's interesting timing too, right? Coming out the president of China visiting, right? And so it's curious that he came out and said in 10 minutes this man helped him to understand North Korean situation was a difficult.
How do they put it? I think. Oh, wow.
So in 10 minutes, that sounded like it hurt. Actually,
it did actually, but I think that was
But in 10 minutes, he convinced this man of that. And so, what else did he convince him of in those meetings? Is it possible that the Chinese president intellectually outwitted Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump is falling in line with what he wants?
I think
Donald Trump can be taken advantage of in that way because he's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
I think Donald Trump just didn't really know much about China other than what he'd heard.
Like I said, 10 minutes, he cleared up a major issue like North Korea for him. I'm just wondering what else he cleared up for him. And how many other of his recent moves have been because maybe they had some really productive conversation. He cleared up a lot of other issues for Donald.
Yeah, I'm really suspicious of this whole Donald Trump is owned by sinister elements. I
didn't say he's owned. I said he's easily manipulated. Just like your senile grandpa is when you show him a video on YouTube and he decides to drop 60 bombs.
That's fair. Well, it's a different time in Washington, D.C., but at root, it's also kind of the same time. It's,
politicians lying is not new.
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
But lying at this rate is new.
Well, what I'm trying to say is actually, Washington, D.C. thinks it's a new day from last week. They think, we've got Trump on our side. Trump wants, all of a sudden, the neocons are back.
That's because the wind's blowing this way.
Exactly.
This week. The wind's going to change directions next week, and it's going to be another issue, another manufactured crisis, by the way.
It'll be something else. I mean, we've got an armada steaming towards North Korea. That could be fun. Anyway, you got sort of final thoughts here?
I just am very disappointed in our media. I have been for years, but the ascension of Donald Trump and their inability to call him out on the sheer bullshit that falls out of his mouth is maddening. I mean, at the end of the day, you cannot have a sit-down interview with this man and let him off the hook for the repeated lies and position changes. He moves the goalpost so much, I'm not sure what sport he's even playing anymore. We have to do something about this. We have to call him out. I mean, where's Dan Rather when you need him, dude?
He's on Facebook, man.
I know, but unfortunately, he's not on the mainstream news. Where he should be sitting in for Bill O'Reilly, and maybe Fox News would all of a sudden become a reputable organization. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have made up that stuff about Bush.
Well, people make mistakes, man. Just like Donald made 3 when he had 3 divorces, multiple divorces, multiple bankruptcies.
You're apologizing for Trump now?
No, I'm saying people make mistakes. If Dan made one mistake, I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. As opposed to hundreds of lies. Mm-hmm. Check it, BuzzFeed.com, keeping a running list. Very informative.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And if you'd like to see what I think Donald Trump should do with foreign policy, I suggest you check out my new essay, Everybody's Lying About Islam, which is available on my website now. If I can ever figure out how to do an audiobook, I'll do a more official launch later in the month, but you can buy it now. Thanks.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.